It's time for the mid-year backlog update. Believe it or not, 6 months have already passed. We're halfway done through the year, and unfortunately for me, I'm a little bit behind. My goal this year was to finish 40 games, and as we can see here, I've only completed 12. I'm a little more than halfway to my goal of completing 20 games within the first 6 months, but I've clearly fallen behind. The reason being is a little bit out of my hand as some IRL stuff comes up every now and then, so gaming takes a bit of a back seat. So let's take a quick look at the 12 games that I've completed. As we know, the first game that I ended up playing was The Division. I had a lot of fun with that game, played through The Division 2 as well. I've made a video on both these games, had a little bit of an updated review, made it all the way to the end game in both games, and I still, to this very day, still boot up The Division 2 every now and then. Ubisoft and the devs over at Massive Entertainment keep updating this game. They're keeping it alive. We know that Division 3 is on the horizon. So this is probably the best live service shooter that exists right now, since Destiny is more or less shutting down. No more updates there. There's not much competition for the Division. You can expect to see a lot of new players jumping into Division 2 if they have not already, and it's a perfect time to jump in. Ubisoft was able to play the long game. They waited. Destiny 2 is shutting down, so there really isn't much more competition around the live service genre. Maybe Warframe is still there, maybe a few others that I can't name off the top of my head, but Division 2 is the best live service shooter out there right now. I ended up playing through Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, mainly because I really wanted to experience the third person update that they ended up releasing. Again, another Ubisoft game on this list, but that third person update changed everything. I really enjoyed my time with it. The open world was gorgeous. It was a beautiful experience. It is, of course, a typical open world game. So you have your outposts to clear and all the checklist things. But what made it enjoyable for me was that open world. Just existing in it was really fun. Then I tackled the Darksiders series almost kind of in a row. The first game I ended up playing was the first Darksiders, obviously, and that was a really fun experience. It was like a time machine, almost going back to the Xbox 360 era. It was a very straightforward, linear game, a lot more puzzles than I could have ever anticipated for a game like that to have. Combat was solid, graphics were solid, art style was beautiful. I really love the art style in all the Darksiders game, except for maybe this one. That being said, very fun experience. Darksiders 2 took that experience and basically doubled it, tripled it, quadrupled it. I really love Darksiders 2. I've said that time and time again on this channel. It is my favorite game in this series by far. Well, maybe not by far. Let's not go that extreme, but it is my favorite game for sure. It almost took on that semi-open world approach. There were so many more systems, the skill system, the loot system, the combat was just more fluid and fun. Death was also a pretty interesting main character, so I had a really good time with Darksiders 2. I would recommend anybody to play that. Now, if you do end up playing the definitive edition on the newer consoles, you might run into a little bit of performance issues. I had some issues with performance, which was surprising given it's an old game running on these newer gen consoles. Now, first, let me go to Darksiders 3, then I'll come back to Genesis. Darksiders 3 was a big letdown for me. I've mentioned this again previously. Did not like it. I think it took a step back in basically every regard. Like, if I'm coming off of Darksiders 2, going into Darksiders 3, I was massively disappointed with what the offerings were. The combat really changed. The art style was a big disappointment comparing to these first two games. Darksiders 3 just wasn't it. It kind of looked like Unreal Engine slop almost, which was really a letdown. Didn't like the writing, didn't like the dialogue, didn't like the story. The first two games were at least more interesting and engaging, learning all these new characters and so on. But Darksiders 3, I don't know. Fury was a decent main character. I just feel like Cheetah wasn't written that well, and none of the bosses were. Just a disappointing game overall for me, but I understand that Darksiders fans really do still enjoy this game, which is more power to them. Then I ended up playing Darksiders Genesis, and I absolutely love this game. I don't think it's better than Darksiders 2, but I would put it above the first Darksiders game. The top-down camera was something that I really enjoy. I like isometric RPGs as it is, so when I saw that camera view, I was like, yep, I'm right at home with this. I ended up really liking Strife and War's sort of banter between one another. I like the dialogue in this game, really like the art style. It's a straightforward linear game, 10 to 12 hours, doesn't take too long to finish, and it can be played in co-op. If you prefer to play with someone locally or online, you can do that. And what I just like was the simplicity of it all. It wasn't a hard game. It wasn't a difficult game. I think I played on maybe normal difficulty, breezed my way through, enjoyed my time with it. There was a clear and really cool upgrade system. The perk system evolving the different creatures was also pretty interesting and unique. Overall, a really good game, a really fun 10 to 12 hour experience. Next up, I went into Starfield. Starfield was a game that really had so much potential and had so much to live up to. And this is going to sound like a broken record. Everyone says the same thing. I don't think the game lived up to that potential. I don't think it lived up to that hype. But what the game ended up being was still relatively solid. Like, I like space games, I like exploring, I just like creating my own fun and my own scenarios. So Starfield really kind of fits that mold, at least the kind of game that I would enjoy. I really like No Man's Sky, for example. Starfield isn't on that level in terms of exploration and the RNG that can take place on planets, but it did offer enough of that space fantasy for me to enjoy it. Now, the main quest was nothing to write home about. I really did not like the main quest. What ended up carrying me through the experience were these faction quests. Those were more interesting, those were more engaging. Some of them were better than others, like the Ryujin ones weren't that great, but the Spacers one, or whatever the other clan was, that one I really enjoyed, but I feel like a lot of people will say the same thing there. That's probably the game at its best. Overall, I did end up putting maybe like 25 to 30 hours into Starfield, and I had a good time with it. Every time I would boot it up or like play the game, I'd be like, man, I wish it kind of did this or kind of did that. So I couldn't get my mind off of what I wanted it to be half the time, but I still ended up enjoying it a decent amount. So up next was actually Far Cry 5. I'm jumping around a little bit here. Far Cry 5 is one of the more interesting Far Cry games in the series. Now, personally, I'm trying to go through and play every Far Cry game and kind of put them into one video. I played Far Cry 6, didn't really like it, didn't enjoy like the systems that it introduced, and it wasn't all that interesting story-wise. Far Cry 5, I think, has probably the best atmosphere of all the games, of all the Far Cries, or at least it has the most thought put into the atmosphere and environmental detail. First game that takes place in North America, and it's centered around this whole cult, and it follows Joseph Seed, who's a very interesting villain in his own right. And the game just has a very certain aesthetic that it pulls off. The open world is beautiful. I just enjoyed driving in it, existing in it, doing all the side activities like fishing and hunting and so on. It's a fun open world. The story is fine. I think Joseph Seed, as I said, is a great villain. The other three that kind of are the supporting casts are all right. The main story ends up being solid by the end of it. It is a typical Ubisoft open world experience, a typical Far Cry experience. If you've played basically any other Far Cry game, you know exactly what that means. But honestly, I'd probably rate it up there in the top 3 Far Cry games. That's not saying much, to be honest, considering there's only 6 of them. Maybe if there was like 20, that would be more of a statement. But I liked it enough to put it up there. I'm still going through all the different Far Cry games that are out there right now. Currently, I am playing Far Cry 3, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Next up, I ended up finishing Remnant 2, which honestly became probably my second or third favorite game that I have finished in 2026. Now, finishing the Remnant games isn't really finishing them. I don't know how to explain it, but basically, you do a playthrough. But that playthrough that you go through, you have seen maybe like 25% of the game. So you do a playthrough, you basically re-roll the adventure mode so you can see more and more of the story. There are so many different scenarios that can play out that the first experience that you have really doesn't cover much at all. So I did end up playing through it one time only. I ended up doing the boss rush mode over and over again. That's kind of where I ended up with that game, and I really enjoyed the boss rush mode too. But the game is awesome. I really like the shooting mechanics. I really like some of the boss mechanics. This game has some of the most unique bosses I've seen really in any game, especially in like the Souls-like formula shooter. Very cool stuff there. The different worlds that you go to are really cool as well. Very different aesthetically. And it's a very unique game in that sense. There's not many games like Remnant 2. So if you like third-person shooters, if you like the Souls-like formula, this game is definitely going to be right up your alley. A lot of build customization, so many guns to play with, so many perks to play with. There's a lot going on here. And if you want to 100% this game, be prepared to put in hundreds of hours. Pretty sure it's going to take you a very long time to complete this game for a platinum trophy. difficulty. The next game I ended up beating was Subnautica, which actually is my favorite game that I've completed this year. Now, I ended up playing this game 100%, and the reason I did that was because it's relatively very easy to 100% this game. You just play through the game naturally and you sort of just get there. But what I loved about this game the most was just the sense of exploration that it provides. There's really nothing like that sense of exploring this deep, dark ocean. You're not knowing what you're going to find. You're not aware of any potential predators. And it mixes this weird sense of fear, yet wanting to be curious and see just what's a little bit deeper. It's a really, really fun game. There are some quality of life improvements I would have loved, like stacking items in your inventory. I'm surprised that this game doesn't have that, nor does Subnautica 2, by the way. You still cannot stack items in your inventory, but that's a different story. Subnautica is an amazing game, especially the first time around, the first time you experience it and how things are just unfolding slowly. And I'm keeping my spoilers to my chest here. Obviously, I'm being pretty vague with explaining this game, but I loved every moment of it. The sense of progression as you get closer and closer to the bottom of the ocean. It is just so good. Subnautica is definitely my favorite game of the year so far, but that could change. Now, those are the games I've completed. There's 12 of them, and I'm way behind on my schedule of completing 40 games. I would need to complete 28 more in the next 6 months, which isn't very doable, to be honest with you. But let me show you the rest of my backlog right now and kind of what I'm playing and what I'm heading towards. So, first and foremost, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is still in my backlog. This is a game I intend to get to. Trust me, I really, really, really want to play this game. It has been on my mind. Every time I wrap up a video or wrap up playing another game, I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's finally time to jump into Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. But for some reason, I always find an excuse, find a different game to play. Like right now, I am currently playing Far Cry 3 and I am really enjoying my time with it. You can expect a video on Far Cry 3 pretty soon. I also just realized I skipped talking about Hogwarts Legacy. This is actually quite an interesting game because it's an open world RPG. It's pretty generic in that sense with a Harry Potter skin on it, but I actually ended up really enjoying this game for what it was. I think the aesthetic of Hogwarts is absolutely incredible. I think they pulled that off really, really well. The atmosphere just existing in Hogwarts and having and fulfilling that fantasy of walking around the school and just being a student there, it's pretty solid. It does a really good job with fulfilling that. There are some downsides to this game that I didn't really like. Like the open world felt very generic. There's your typical checklist of activities to do and enemy camps and so on and so forth. There's some good aspects, there's some bad aspects, but overall, I thought this was a really fun game and it's pretty much on sale or like given away for free at this point. So if you're looking for another open world RPG to play, I would definitely recommend this. Now, back to what I was talking about here. I mentioned that I was playing Far Cry 3 currently. I'm about 4 or 5 hours deep into it. I don't have much longer in the main story, maybe like another 10 hours. It's a pretty short game because obviously it came out so long ago at this point. I ended up dropping Sorrows. To be honest, this game just did not live up to my expectations. My expectations weren't even relatively that lofty, to be honest. I just wanted a better Returnal, but it didn't give me a better Returnal, and that's kind of disappointing. Didn't really like the main story. I didn't have that mystery that Returnal had. Didn't have that isolating feeling. And overall, I feel like it just didn't improve on the systems the way it should have. I really want to see more upgrades in terms of how the roguelike mechanics worked, how if there was more build variety, more guns, more, right? Just more from the sequel. They had 4 or 5 years to iterate, but it ended up, for me, being a worse version of Returnal, so I did end up dropping it. Now, in my backlog, I also have Far Cry 4. Remember, I am trying to go through all the Far Cry games, so obviously Far Cry 4 is in that list. I will probably end up playing Far Cry 4 after I play Far Cry 3, which probably isn't too much of a surprise because I am trying to get these games all done this year. I also have a couple of the Metro games in my backlog. I have Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light. Now, I intend to do a Metro series video where I play through all 3 of the games from start to finish, and that is something I'm going to start working on soon as we're ramping up to the Metro 2039 release, so I'm going to probably put it up around then. These are relatively short games too. They're single player. These are more linear than Metro Exodus. That one adopts more of an open world, so these shouldn't take too long for me to complete them. Then I have Hades 2. Now, full disclosure, this should actually be in the playing category because I've been playing this game on and off. I basically do like 1 or 2 runs a day, and the runs in this game can take some time, maybe 20 or 30 minutes. And basically, I've cleared Chronos one time, but as you know, in Hades and Hades 2, you basically have to complete a full run over and over and over again to get the full story. That being said, Hades 2 is a really fun game. Obviously, it feels very familiar to the first Hades. I'd say this one is more tactical feeling, like it's not as fast as Hades. I feel like that game was full rush all the time. This one's more like read the room and try to understand what to do before just trying to blast your enemies. So I'm having fun with it. I don't know how long it's going to take me, and I don't know if I'm going to make a video on it, to be honest. This is more so just for me to play this game, just because it's so critically acclaimed. And I really like the first Hades, so it only makes sense to play through Hades 2. Finally, we have Watch Dogs 2. Watch Dogs 2 would complete the Watch Dogs series playthrough for me. I've basically played through Watch Dogs 1 and made a video on it. I played through Watch Dogs Legion and made a video on it. I haven't played through Watch Dogs 2, which from what I hear is probably the best one in the series. I see that kind of comment time and time again. So I want to check it out for myself, see if it's actually the best Watch Dogs in the series, and then I'll also be making sort of a retrospective video on this. So that's my backlog. This is sort of how my binder collection is looking like. This is an app I built for myself, by the way, just to kind of track things for me. I just like looking back and seeing what I've done. So I basically have 12 games in this list. And I don't know if I'm going to get to 40. I haven't even completed the 20 game target, which was what I was going for at this 6-month marker. But we'll see what I can do. If you guys have any more shorter linear style games to suggest, leave them in the comments below just so I can get to the number 40. I'm talking about single player experiences that maybe will take me 12 to 15 hours. That would be ideal. And it doesn't have to be a AAA game. It could be a AA game. It could be an indie. So I'm very much looking forward to you guys suggesting some games for me to play. So that's going to be it for the 6-month mid-year backlog update. I have a long way to go. I've fallen behind, but you know what? We'll see what we can get done. Thank you guys for watching this video. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys did, make sure to hit that like button. If you're new here, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.